Hey, this is Nicholas with the Backyard TARDIS here with one of my first just kind of general thoughts videos. And this will kind of be a reoccurring thing on Thursdays. Um, Initially, I intended the first one to be on E3. However, I've just not had the time to consume it all. And there's something else that I felt really needed to be talked about. Um, I'm a huge fan of the Red5 Network. And there's been some recent drama and different things, and I kind of wanted to go through, talk about my thoughts about what makes a toxic fan, and kind of talk a little about the drama. I think first I have to address what started all this. It's something that I wasn't going to touch. I didn't really have a concern about, but it started between kind of the Salty Nerd podcast and James Mangold of the director for Indiana Jones 5. And he's an amazing director, by the way. He's done a lot of really great nerd videos, movies. But anyways, Matthew Cadis just did a random post, just like all of us do on Twitter. We just kind of post our thoughts, and he kind of posted some of the things that he kind of felt, were concerning to him going and looking at Indiana Jones 5. And when you read his tweet, the way he starts it words it, for any of those thinking that, Indiana Jones is going to be good. Obviously, I know he doesn't intend it, but I could see why Mangold took issue with that, why other individuals look at that and they go, wow, yeah. But realistically, the points that he listed, he was talking about facts, and he really wasn't going into detail. And one of the things that you could look at those same facts and you could walk away and go, actually, I think that means it's going to be awesome. It's all really how you take it. But he really didn't talk about his opinions on it, but it was just kind of apparent by the way he set the tweet up. Well, somebody linked this to Mangold, or put it in a news article and then linked the news article to it. And he got on Twitter, went out swinging, called the Salty Nerd podcast people basement dwellers, and Alex over there, he kind of jokingly shot back and said, hey man, it's so cool, we don't have a basement, but we got a studio, and shared an older picture of that, and and then once again he's making fun of their vinyl brick background and the jar of corks and stuff. Just it kind of really took, though, I think the nerd verse by storm, because he went at it for like 12 hours, and just all sorts of people were jumping in to the conversation, interacting with him, and he just was going at it for quite a long time. And so a lot of people who had gone through the situation previously with Lucasfilm, with like Ryan Johnson, calling fans man babies and toxic, and really talking down to fans. Fans are very sensitive, especially when it comes to Lucasfilm. So this, of course, got the interest of the Fandom Menace, and of course they wanted to do tons of videos on it. Some of them interviewed different members of the Salty Nerd podcast. And then this got into the drama that I'm concerned with. One started attacking the Red5 Network as a whole for being Fandom Menace adjacent. And I think this is silly, because I'm going to just kind of take a step back and my relationship with the Salty Nerd podcast. So the Salty Nerd podcast, the way I came into acknowledgement of that is that, I was on Twitter kind of right after The Last Jedi. I didn't do anything Star Wars on Twitter. That was not when I was here. Death Battle was actually, I avoided social media like the plague. And but they kept saying, interact with us on Twitter, interact with us on Twitter. So I was like, okay, well, I gotta get Twitter and set that up. And I was all in the versus conversations, and I was trying to push for some more sci-fi versus, and I want to do Tilk versus Worf. And of course, Alex, the salty nerd, he saw that and he said, we're going to blow this up. And he retweeted, did a bunch of things, tagged some individuals, different stuff. It didn't go anywhere. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I really tried. And I thought I had a bigger spool of influence. I'm not, oh, that's fine. And we started talking back and forth. And he's like, hey, I got a podcast. And so I checked that out. And that kind of got me to branch out from podcasting. At that point, all my podcasting really was either Screwtack or Rooster Teeth based. And so that really kind of opened up a new avenue. And now I actively listen to over 46 different podcasts. But at that point, I wasn't actively looking out for podcasters. I was basically, these were just YouTubers that also did podcasts that I was following. And but right there off the bat, talking about toxic fans, I found early on after The Last Jedi that my opinions were not welcome. I didn't particularly like The Last Jedi, but I also didn't like how much people were nitpicking it. In other words, I had some legitimate criticisms with the movie, but I saw people upset about how bombs drop, and I thought, you know what? Any other Star Wars film, if that had been there, that wouldn't have been a complaint at all. Just some of the things I saw people, and so I would express that. And I would have Fandom Menace people just relentlessly attack me online. And I mean, I had people telling me that I should just kill myself. It was crazy the way people were reacting. It was very toxic, very crazy. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this. It was none of the big names that people ever go on it. It's people in their follower base, though. But then I had the other thing happen true. I would mention I didn't like the movie. I would mention something I didn't like about the movie. And I would get tons of the so-called positive Twitter or true Star Wars fans who love all Star Wars or whatever they want to call themselves. Same thing. Just attack me. Call me sexist. Call me racist. Tell me that it would be better if I was never born, that I should just end my life. Stuff like that. And it was just crazy. And I was ready to mute the word Star Wars. I wanted nothing to do with it. But then I was dealing with Alex. And he was open to discussion. And, he never criticized me when my opinion was different than his. And that had always been, I was at a period in my life where none of my current friends around me were nerds. So I had nobody else to talk to. So it was like, all of a sudden I found like this great outlet. And was being treated respectfully when so many on the internet weren't. This early on, this is before really they joined the Phantom Menace. This is before Drunk 3PO joined Geeks and Gamers. He was hanging out with Drunk 3PO, introduced me to him. They did some charity stuff, different things. And he was always nice and cordial with me online. And then, he introduced me to Ro, of the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast and founder of the Red5Network. And so then I started watching that, and they had deep discussions. Brad, the other co-host of Scarif, he had to go off. He's in the military. So Alex hopped on, filled in the space. So that got me to start listening. And I'm like, wow, these are really deep lore discussions of Star Wars. This is not just fluff talking about, oh, we love this movie. Oh, this scene's so iconic. It was actually going into the lore of the Force and different effects and emotions of the characters, and I really loved it. Then I started listening to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, and they cross over with Coruscant Radio Underground, who also runs the Science Fictionary, and really loved their knowledge of the books and what they brought to the table and talking about that. So now I'm listening to these 3 podcasts, and then they announced the Red5Network. Just a slew of podcasts, and these 3 podcasts that I love are in that network. And so then I just started, okay, I'm gonna give them all a try. And I listened to the majority of the Red5Network, and it's one of those things where the views are so different. There are ones that just love everything, really, and I love them. Blue Milk Cafe. Enjoy his podcast. He just has a love and passion for Star Wars. The silly antics of Conversations. love that. The facts of Jedi Temple Underground. A certain point of view. Here you got a person who liked The Last Jedi and a person who didn't like the Jedi, and they're doing a podcast together, and talking about different points of view that people come to these properties. So many wonderful podcasts, and it just kept growing, and they kept adding more podcasts. And now I find I'm listening to over not just the Red 5 Network, but over 20 podcasts on Star Wars. This is like a year after I was ready to mute the word Star Wars on Twitter because I was getting attacked constantly. Truly, force of positivity. Some people don't like some of the movies. Some people don't like the prequels. Some people don't like the sequels. Some people like the prequels over the sequels. All different combinations. Some people like everything inside this Red 5 Network. But I've had nothing but good interactions with everybody involved in it. And so to see people take this as an opportunity to try to label the Red 5 Network as toxic really kind of upset me, because this has been nothing but a positive experience when Star Wars Twitter as a whole has been nothing but an awful experience. And so to see that, to people do that, and it's the gating here, the labeling of people, trying to view that every person in the Phantom Menace, automatically that makes them an awful person. And if you talk to them by association, you're awful. Or if you talk or on a network with another podcast that talks with them, that means that you're awful by association. Really, that's crazy, and that's toxic in itself. These are people who just have a different point of view. The Phantom Menace is not like something you enroll in or anything like that. It's just a tag that people put on there. It's just a tag that's supposed to mean we don't like these movies. They don't all make hate videos or clickbait videos or all that stuff. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't toxic individuals in that community. I suffered the brunt of it. I've gotten death threats from people who run that Phantom Menace tag. I am not a fan of the Phantom Menace. That said, the ones that have treated me with dignity and respect, I talk with them. I deal with them. I see nothing wrong with that. And something I think a lot of people don't understand is that, some people do this, it's their therapy. Getting out there, getting their feelings out there, expressing themselves. Maybe it may be a negative viewpoint, and they go, why do you want to put negative? That's therapy. I view my channel as therapy. Of course, I'm not. I try never to be negative and just talk about the things I enjoy. I'm not a fan of the constant that, but I get why some people need to do it. Why do other people watch their stuff? Well, it's because when they come on a place like Twitter and they say, hey, yeah, I didn't like that movie. I really thought they did Luke wrong or something like that. Well, you're a sexist and a racist, and you get told that enough. And then you go onto a channel that tells you, you're not. It's them. It's not us. It's this, you're going to like that validation. So these so-called positive individuals that go around attacking random fans just because of how they feel about a movie and labeling, they feed into it just as much. And they live off of the drama just as much as the Phantom Menace lives off of the negative down with Kathleen Kennedy or Disney Star Wars or whatever, burn the mouse down, whatever their thing is. These so-called positive ones, which are just bring down these OT fans, they're wrong, go through, it's just as toxic. It's just as toxic. And it really made me think of like the 89 Batman movie. When the Joker and the Batman are realizing that they both played key parts in each other's origins. And he says, you made me, I made you. Who's to say? That's really what it is. It's a constant loop. And so these ones who are very frustrated that the Phantom Menace has so much traction, but they go around attacking Phantom Menace people on Twitter and social media, doing all these campaigns, they feed into it. They feed the Phantom Menace machine. And guess what? The Phantom Menace feeds their machine, because their followers on Twitter are people who like these movies, who are upset that the Phantom Menace is making these videos, and so they're gaining followers, they're gaining clicks by constantly addressing toxic fans. They're both doing the same game. They're both trying to gain viewership over the argument. And who wins? Well, it's almost like they radicalize these people online, because you think about it, when two nerds just talk, maybe your coworkers or something, and somebody says, "Oh man, I really love this movie," and they go, "Really? I didn't like that movie at all." It's just that you don't yell at that person and call them a name. You don't say, "Oh, you're an SJW," or "Oh, you're a racist," or where you don't get in heated arguments and then walk away or whatever. There's just, it's okay. You're just nerds having a discussion. But it seems like online people can't just have these simple discussions about these things without start name calling, without getting super aggressive. People can like things, people can dislike things, people have the right to express themselves one way or the other, and everyone also has the right to mute people. I'm not a fan of echo chambers, but at the same time, if people's content is really distressing to you, it's upsetting to you, it's bringing you down, you don't have to consume it. And instead of going out and attacking those people, just mute them. Don't see it. Don't call it to mind. It's that easy. That easy. And so this kind of trying to call people toxic, this is my big thing. The Red5Network is truly not toxic. I think a lot of these individuals who constantly do clickbait, that constantly doing the news thing, that these ones positivity, and then the Salty Nerd podcast. Yeah, you think, oh, well, they're the salty nerds. Yeah, they're just an outrage site. No. Most of their stuff is talking about older stuff, movies and shows and stuff from the 80s. And they're not an echo chamber, because usually one or two will really love something and another one or two will greatly dislike that show, and then they'll have nerd discussion. And you know what? At the end of the day, they're all still friends because they're not toxic. They just love to have nerd debate and to watch shows and to talk about it like nerds do. And so in that way, I look at it and I go, well, you may not agree with some of their views on this movie or that movie, but they're not out there working the system. And so people seeing that they suddenly got monetized because of this drama, seeing all this, they took that as a shot. Oh, I'm going to go in and attack. But what are they looking for? They're looking for the clicks. They're looking for the clicks of being, I'm attacking the Salty Nerd podcast. Aren't I great because you don't like them either? Come follow me. That's what they're looking for. And when they're doing this, they're stating that, like, oh, they're doing the outrage of the week videos. They don't do that. They don't do that. They're Phantom Menace. They don't identify as Phantom Menace. But you know what? That doesn't mean that they aren't friendly with the Phantom Menace individuals, that they aren't willing to talk about them with them and collab with them. And that's not wrong. That's perfectly fine. As long as, they themselves and the individuals that they're going with, some of the things that the Phantom Menace individuals are accused of really has to do with a group mentality. One Phantom Menace did this, they all did it. And, of course, the big accounts, they're guilty of the click of the week type videos. There's no denying that. But everybody wants to say, oh, they're this, they're that. There's a lot of people of color in the Phantom Menace. There's a lot of women in the Phantom Menace. There's these different groups. They're in there. So really, to me, it comes down to everybody's just fame chasing. Meanwhile, I love what the Red5Network is doing. They're staying the course. They're going about doing their videos just like they do every week, talking about what they love, expressing themselves, and being a positive force. And so that's why, Red5 Network, family for life, I really enjoy these podcasts, and I really think you should check them out. Not every podcast is going to be for you, but I guarantee you that if you go check out the Red5 Network, you're going to find a podcast that you really enjoy. So with that, that's just kind of my talk on this. I really don't want to do videos on drama, but it was really upsetting me seeing how people were just talking about these things, especially, and then they started going after Roe, which Roe and the Scuttlebutt podcast has always been, in my opinion, the Switzerland of Star Wars podcasts. Such a positive force in the Star Wars space, willing to give everybody a chance to talk and express themselves. And so, to me, when they're going after Roe and trying to label him as toxic, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Of course, I always lean towards the more positive-based podcasts, and so that's where I'm going to be. But Red5 Network, that's where it's at. Check that out. And with that, that's just kind of something I had to get off my chest. My therapy for the day. I hope everybody's having a good day. And I know by the time this video is out, all this stuff will probably have blown over because the Red5 Network, they're not going to dwell on it. It's just going to be a cliff note in their past. And so it's good to see the network still growing. And with that, everybody have a good day.